we don't want it, we can get rid of the horns, and we can get rid of the smoothing that allowed us to actually model that detail in the first place. So again, we've got the option of experimenting, trying things out, and you know, if we don't like the horns, we can get rid of them, or you know, we can keep the turbo smooth. We didn't like those horns. Let's say we wanted to try a different set. We could put another edit poly modifier on. What I'll do is I'll actually rename this edit poly modifier to let's say spiky horns. So I've got a record of what actually that does, and now I can go up here, and this time I'll select 4 faces to make a slightly, you know, bigger set of horns, a little bit more chunky. And you know, I can follow the same process as before. I can just extrude those out a little bit like that, apply that, extrude out a little bit more, I'll apply that, then extrude out a little bit more, just okay that there. Now we'll scale these down slightly. We'll move them on their local axis upwards slightly, and then we'll go into extrude. Actually, I'll just do a rotation as well, again on their local axes, so we get it along the plane of the actual the polygons. And then we'll do another extrude. I'll just okay that, and then we'll just scale these down into a point. There we are. And again, we'll do a movement there. So oops, that's gone a little bit wonky. I'll just undo that. But you can see the idea that I'm talking about here. We've got these big chunky horns, and we can turn this turbo smooth on, and we can get an idea what that's going to look like. And now, you know, I can rename that one as well. Oops. Just get rid of that hash sign at the end there. And you know, we can show these then to maybe a supervisor. We can say, you know, you can either use your spiky horns, or if you're not a big fan of the spiky horns, then you know, you can have your chunky horns, whichever of those two you prefer. And you know, if you're not a fan of either of those, you can just turn them both off and work on something else instead. So you know, again, that's a pretty cool feature of the stack. So another scenario that we can have is where through modeling, through an error, we've actually introduced some sort of problem into the mesh, and we want to actually fix that. So let's say we had a turbo smooth on our mesh, and then we put a poly model modifier on there, and let's say we went in and we grabbed a couple of faces here. So let's say I grabbed this face here, that face here, and for whatever reason we wanted to pull those out. That was a modification we wanted to make to our mesh, and we liked that. And let's say now we wanted to make another modification, wanted to grab these 2 faces here, and let's say I want to just make a slight adjustment in their width here like this. So we've made these changes to our mesh, and this is something that we like, but let's say inadvertently that, and this is quite a common thing to do actually, if you're not careful, if we had ignore backfacing not on, which is actually the case at the moment, it's very easy to actually select some vertices at the back of a character, or some faces, or whatever. And let's say, you know, worst case scenario, we've grabbed some of these vertices inadvertently. You know, they're at the back of the character. We can't actually see what's going on in a certain scenario, and let's say we've done this to the model. Now in this case it's quite easy to go back and reproduce this kind of modeling here, but let's say you were working on the front side of the character for like 25 minutes, half an hour, whatever, and suddenly you turn the character around and oh my god, you've got this horrible mess at the back. Well, you can actually use the stack to remedy something like this. And in this case, we're actually going to use the morph modifier to make a fix. And that illustrates the point that I made earlier in the DVD, where you don't just have to use the animation tools, the animation modifiers in Max to do animation. You can use them as modeling tools as well. And in this case, we can use it to actually fix the problem that we've got here. Now, the only thing that we have to be certain of is that any changes that we've made to the model at this level can be reproduced in a clean model with the same number of vertices. As long as we can do that, we can actually use this morph fix. So that's actually the case. I think if I turn off the edit poly modifier here, that's going to give us back a clean model, where the back of the model here isn't actually changed and doesn't actually have this error. And we can just do that by dragging this over here and making a copy. Now if I turn off the edit poly modifier, and if we check these two models, you can see our original model has got 7,286, and this model here has got 7,286. So if I get a morph modifier, I'll just go down here and pop a morpher on. There we go. I'll pick this channel by right clicking on it. Allows us to pick the model from the scene, and now I can go over here and I've picked this model. Now if I dial up this spinner, it'll actually fix the problem that we have here, or at least it should do anyway. As you can see, it's doing exactly what we wanted. It's fixing the problem at the back of our model. It's putting all those vertices back into the original position. Now the problem is obviously it's also eradicating all that hard work that we did on the front of the model as well. As you can see, the vertices are being morphed back into their original positions as well. So that's not really ideal. But again, the stack can come to the rescue, and we don't have to apply the morph modifier to the entire object. What we can actually do is we can pass it a subset of vertices and only have the morph apply to those. So we'll just go down here to the edit poly modifier. We'll apply a poly select modifier there. We'll go in and we'll just select these vertices, and we'll pass that up the stack to the morpher. Now I can actually dial up this value, and you can see that the morph modifier is only applied to those vertices. So you can see that's actually pretty cool. We fixed the problem at the back of our mesh. Then if we wanted to carry on modeling and we didn't want to have this vertex selection passed on up the stack, we can just use another mesh poly select modifier, and that will then carry on the mesh cleanly, and we don't have a sub-selection anymore. And we can carry on making modifications. So again, you can see the stack is our friend in terms of modeling. We can experiment, we can make fixes to our model, and you know, it's a really great tool in many areas of working in 3D. Okay, so that's it for this DVD. Let's move on now, and we'll have a quick concluding chapter where we recap what we've covered.